Welcome back to the Monday, beginning of the week edition of City News. Our resident GP, Dr. Cate Mills, and a couple of times this week.
Yes, yeah, lucky me.
Nice to have you back.
Thank you, Steve.
Nice to see you again. Talking about a bit of a tricky subject.
It is, isn't it?
Because some people don't like to talk about it.
No.
But you need to. We're talking contraception.
Very important subject. Affects everyone, or all couples, really. Yeah.
So back to basics. What is it?
What is it? It's a reversible way of preventing a woman falling pregnant, essentially, in a nutshell.
And do you think here in Rotorua people know enough about it? Are people using contraception? Are we still getting a lot of teenage pregnancies?
I think that's an interesting issue. I think people probably know enough about it, or that they know that it's available, but it's about having access to getting it and then finding a method that works for you so that you would actually use it. So a way that, something that you can remember easily and something that doesn't have any side effects and is easy to use for you. And that sometimes takes a little bit of working out.
Okay. We're talking this time about reversible contraception. So things that obviously you can stop using
Yes.
to fall pregnant.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
so something you can take for a while that'll decrease your chance of getting pregnant. So like the pill, lots of different pills, essentially two different groups. There's a combined oral contraceptive pill and then the mini pill, which only contains one hormone, whereas the combined pill contains two. And they both work, well, they work in a slightly different way, each of them. The combined pill is designed to stop women from ovulating. So you don't release an egg, the egg can't be fertilised, you don't fall pregnant. And the mini pill works by making the mucus at the entrance to the uterus really thick so the sperm can't get through it. And occasionally it will also stop women ovulating as well. And they're good contraceptives. The pill's now been around for 50 years.
That long?
I know.
Whoa.
I know, it's just had its birthday. And it's really revolutionised, our control of our family size and consequently the control of our lives, in terms of financial investment and freedom, really, around choices. So it has made a very big impact to our culture.
So you've got the pill, you've got condoms.
Condoms, so barrier methods, condoms in the diaphragm as well. And then you've got intrauterine devices. Those have been around for a long time too. So it essentially is a plastic or sometimes metal, small device that's inserted through the entrance to the womb and sits inside the uterus and makes the uterus a bit of a hostile place for an egg or a sperm to travel through, first of all, and then for a fertilised egg to come back to and try to grow.
Okay. So with any of these forms of contraception, they're not foolproof?
They're not foolproof, exactly. So if you took, say, condoms, for example, at one end of the scale, and if you used them absolutely correctly, according to the manufacturer's instructions, every time you had sex, there is still probably a 10 to 12% failure rate for those.
Wow.
So it's still quite high. Yeah. So condoms are great for certain situations. They're great for new relationships where you're trying to protect yourself from getting sexually transmitted infections and trying to be responsible about contraception at the same time. But for longer term relationships, you need to be happy accepting that sort of failure rate if you want to use those alone.
For sure. And you were, just before we started the show today, you were talking about a couple of new...
Yes, new contraceptives that have just come onto the market, and they're hormonally based, and one is a device called a Mirena, which is an intrauterine device that has a hormone inside it. So it goes inside the uterus and it slowly releases this hormone inside the uterus, and that stops women from getting pregnant. Yeah, it also stops women from menstruating as well, so it's also really useful for women that are having difficulties with their periods. And it's also a tiny dose of hormone, so much less than any of the pills that you're taking, because it just acts locally. So it's a great new form of contraception. The only downside is really putting it in, that there's a small risk that as you put it into the uterus, there may be a problem with where it's been put. But apart from that, it's a great new form of contraception.
And that's a long-lasting thing, or do you replace...
5 years.
5 years?
5 years,
Wow.
stays in there 5 years. And there's also a new implant, it's called, which is a small rod which is inserted under the skin of the upper arm. In women, it's probably about that long. And that it contains hormone inside it, and that hormone is slowly released over 3 years. So that can stay in there and release hormone for 3. It goes just inside, under the skin of your upper arm. So it's probably about maybe this long, 3 or 4 centimetres long, and it's tiny. It's maybe only a couple of millimetres wide, and it's inserted through a device just under the skin in the upper arm.
Oh, for goodness sake.
You can feel it under the skin sitting there.
One problem I have with contraception is that what can guys do? We've got condoms, but...
I know. It's hard, isn't it?
You know?
Yeah. Well, the only thing that's really an option for guys is a vasectomy, essentially. So only permanent forms of contraception at this stage. They've talked about the male pill, but that seems to be more of an enigma than a reality.
I think they need to do something.
Well, I think if they're being responsible and actually participating in the relationship and talking to their partners about, what are we doing for contraception, just taking responsibility is a good start.
Dr. Cate, that's reversible stuff. We're going to have you in tomorrow night, talk non-reversible.
Uh-oh.
We'll talk with Dr. Cate again tomorrow night on Citynews. Up next, a bit of an employment issue with unemployed, with people finding it hard to find work at the moment with the recession. Well, supposedly we're out of that, but things still pretty tough on the job front. So we're going to have a chat with Angelique and Robin from Personnel Resources next on Citynews.